I've always thought, since I was a kid, technology is pretty cool. It does useful things for people, and if you do it yourself, it's fun. And as you heard the congressman and other people say, you can make a living out of it. You can make a life out of it. You can keep this country the envy of the world if we stay the best at it. But sadly, 20 years ago, it was already apparent that this country was sliding. Everybody was blaming the teachers and the schools, and the blame game always goes on when things aren't going well. My mother's here, she's a teacher. She's been a teacher her whole life. I thought it's a really bad idea to blame the teachers. I looked around and said it is inconceivable to me that America was doing so badly, particularly in math and science, and particularly women and minorities in this country uniquely, not participating in these things. And why would women and minorities be particularly affected if it was just a general education program? What problem? So I said, okay, remember I'm an inventor. What do inventors do? Inventors look at the same problems everybody else looks at and see them differently. I said, let's make the bold assumption we don't have an education problem. Let's make the bold assumption it isn't the teachers. It isn't the old, it's supply and demand. You need more supply. You know, we're the richest country in the world. Even back 20 years ago, we were spending more on education than most of the rest of the world combined. I said, it's not education, it's culture. And it's not supply, it's demand, or lack of demand. It's not what we don't have enough of in this country, it's what we have too much of. Obsessions with nonsense and distractions. Every role model that every kid sees, particularly women and particularly minorities in this country, see as their role models people from two places, the NBA, the NFL, and Hollywood. Well, the world is about more than sports and entertainment. And there aren't a lot of jobs in sports and entertainment. And we ought to remember they're fun. They're a pastime. They're not the source of our wealth. They're the result of it. So let's get serious. So I looked around and I said, now I can imagine my kids, particularly women and minorities, inner city kids, don't study hard, don't work at developing the one muscle that matters, the one hanging between their ears, because all day long they're bombarded by nonsense that makes the only thing that seems attractive to them, again, sports and entertainment. But I'm a practical guy. So I said, okay, we'll just turn science and technology into sports and entertainment. And then kids will get into our sport, except the content of our sport isn't bounce, 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 throw. The content of our sport is thinking, solving problems, analytics. They need to pick up algebra and geometry and calculus. They need to learn teamwork. They need to do all the stuff that we always say is what's great about sports, but they can put their passion to something that'll give them careers. Here's the rub, and this is why I'm here, woman. I realized that no matter how good a sport could be made, if we made a new sport just for kids to play, it would be like trying to become world-class in this country at cricket by explaining that we need a new curriculum-based cricket program in gym. The gym teachers would take the curriculum, if you finally developed it, and they'd say, well, we'll do the best we can with this, but I never played cricket as a kid, don't understand cricket. The kids aren't going to stay late and try to get on a varsity cricket team. Nobody else plays. There's no NBA and NFL cricket. It wouldn't work. In America, you get what you celebrate. So I said the reason that we're creating such passion, such good athletes and good, our kids want to do what they see their older brothers and sisters do. They want to see what high school kids do. They want to do what the colleges do. They want to do what the NBA and NFL do. So I said, where do we find the Shaquille O'Neal of science and technology? Where do we find young adults that could be the role models for kids that happen to come not from the NBA or from Hollywood, but they come from the world of science, technology, inventing, engineering? Well, they're there at all the big companies, all the big technology companies, all the federal labs, at NASA. You just heard people. So in 1990, 91, I convinced 23 organizations. That doesn't seem like a lot, but it was the right kind of organization. Little ones like NASA, United Technology, General Electric, Intel, Xerox, Johnson & Johnson. Some of the biggest, best technology companies from every form of technology we have. Aerospace, medical, defense. I said, I got them all together in a room. I said, we're going to make a sport. And you guys are going to supply me, big companies are going to supply me with the young superstars that will be role models for kids. Now, since the kids don't know about our sport, you got to be a little bit more than just the NBA and NFL. We're actually going to ask each one of you 23 to go out and adopt a local school. Hopefully a school where kids never met a scientist or engineer, where the girls think math and science and engineering and welding can't be for them. You're going to go find those schools where you have some big operation, and we're going to use the rules of every other high school sport. It's short, it's intense, the season's only 6 or 7 weeks long. At the end of it, there'll be a celebration, not a test, not a grade. There'll be a celebration, a double elimination tournament. There'll be instant winners. Bring the school bands, bring the cheerleaders, bring everybody. Let's celebrate something important. Well, in January, I gave out the kits of parts for our sport. It all fit in a shoebox that year. We were starting small. They had 6 weeks to build a little robot that would pick up tennis balls in 2-minute double elimination rounds. That would happen 7 weeks later when they all got together. Well, they all dispersed all over the country. It took me, sadly, the whole country to get to 23. And in the middle of March, they showed up in Manchester, New Hampshire. So that's commitment. And we took over a high school gym and we had the tournament. It went all day Friday, and then Saturday was the finals. And Xerox and a couple of other big companies did very well. They get to the finals, they win. I walked into the makeshift VIP lounge for our Super Bowl event. And there, about half a dozen of the CEOs and chief technology officers of some of the biggest, most prestigious technology companies were there. Because they had already bonded with their kids. They want to win. And I walked in and said, what do you 23 teams think of this? One of the CEOs, to this day, for the rest of my life, I'll never forget it. One of them looked up, because I thought they had a great time, and he says to me, you lied to us. I don't lie to anyone. I'm a pain in the butt, but I don't lie to anyone. He looks at me, you lied to us. Yeah, when you gave us those kits several weeks ago, you said it would be nights and weekends with these kids. By about 2 weeks into this, we realized it was going to be all night and all weekend to turn this pile of junk into something that works. And if I put my name on it, I wasn't going to let Hewlett Packard or anybody beat me. And one by one, they all started laughing. But it is like this. It was just great, and our engineers got more out of it than the kids, and it was just unbelievable. And then one of the CEOs says, Dean, yeah, what you didn't tell us was it wasn't about building robots. It was about these kids building self-confidence. It was about building an understanding of the real world. It was about kids building serious relationships with serious adults. I had the upper hand again. I said, wow, this really does work. So I said to these 23 companies, if I do this again next year, I'll make a new kit, I'll make it bigger, I'll put more junk in it. Will you come back? How many of them said they'd come back? All of them. I said, all right, well, you're all big companies. You're all on the boards of other big companies. Bring your friends. So the next year, we brought 60 teams. January, kickoff, 20-pound kits. Come back in 7 weeks. Third year, 40-pound kits. We had 150 teams, 400 teams. I'm going to have to go really fast through the history. I'll tell you some key break points. By the end of the 5th year, it's now tradition to this date, 18 years later, by the end of the 5th year, they all come for their bigger kits. Each year, there's about 50% rookies. We have this big party to kick it off, and there's 2 kinds of people there. The old veterans that have greater stories than you'd have from any other sport. Oh yeah, robot did a double twist. And then half the people walking around like a deer in the headlights because they're looking, what are we doing here? We're building robots with kids.